Welcome to another episode of The Litter Box, a Detroit Tigers podcast, with your hosts, Bill Patterson and Chet West. We had the Cardinals this past week. 3 games. The Tigers have a long storied history with the Cardinals. Multiple World Series appearances against them. Some success, some disappointment, and we get a little interleague matchup here. I am not the biggest Cardinals fan on the face of the earth, I have to admit. I tend to look at their fan base as a pair of khakis, Sunday school khakis with the pleats. They seem so plain, so kind of just vanilla. We'll get into game 1 here in a minute, but overall, what do you think of when you think of the Cardinals?
Khakis. Pleated.
Sunday school khakis.
I mean, this is a city that has lost not 1 but 2 NFL teams. That's unprecedented ground.
Yeah, that says something.
And I mean, I respect the Cardinals for their winning ways and the Cardinal way. I mean, they are the Yankees of the National League. I mean, they're the winningest team in the National League. That being said, we've had some success. The 1968 World Series might be considered one of the greatest World Series. From a pitching duel standpoint, the Cardinals had Big Bob Gibson on the mound for 3 of those games, and the Detroit Tigers had Denny McLain going on 3 of those games. For those listeners, most of whom weren't alive back then, the mound was higher. It was a raised mound, and it was more cone-shaped, if you would. And they lowered the mound and leveled it after that season or seasons because the pitching was so dominant. That being said, I know you want me to touch on some food. St. Louis has taken 2 foods that are absolutely perfect on their own and modified them to their own liking and not improved on it in any way, shape, or form. I don't know about your opinion of ravioli, Chet. I've never really known you to be a big Italian guy, but that being said, I'm sure you like a good fresh ravioli from a delicious trattoria or Italian restaurant. Is that?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and when you eat your ravioli, as most of us do, you would ask them just to boil it in pasta water until al dente and serve it with some type of sauce. It could be any type of sauce.
That seems standard.
Yeah. Well, St. Louis decided to up the ante on this one. Coat it in bread, they deep fry it, and they serve it with a side of marinara.
We did the poutine last week. Now we're on fried ravioli or whatever we're doing here.
They call it toasted by the way.
Ravioli.
But there's nothing toasted about it.
I don't need all that with my ravioli. Now, I'm a kid who grew up eating the ravioli out of the Chef Boyardee can without even heating it up. So I was a little bit of an animal where ravioli was concerned. And I do enjoy a fresh plate of ravioli from a wonderful Italian eatery. You don't need to bread it. And that's complicated. I'm the take the bareback hot dog, jam it in my pocket guy at the ballpark. I can't travel with a breaded or a toasted ravioli. That's going to be a mess. That's going to be all over me in section 144. I'm sorry.
The other part of that is edible when fresh. If you let that sit for more than 90 seconds.
Oh, you don't want it to soak in that breading and everything.
Yeah, no. You're looking at a real tough issue there.
My goodness.
Part 2 would be they do a thin crust or tavern style pizza, as we call it here in Chicago.
And I don't need St. Louis pizza. I have a lot of pizza from a lot of other great places. I'm pretty sure they're not doing it as well as everybody else.
Emo's IM''S is their famous one.
Yeah.
And you can get this just about anywhere, including Busch Stadium. They use a cheese called Provel, which is essentially provolone mixed with cream cheese. So American cheese is just cheddar mixed with cream cheese. That's why you get like the liquid viscosity, that's so great when you put it on a burger or use it, maybe making your homemade mac and cheese, so on and so forth. But where we're going with this is they absolutely love this Emo's pizza. And when you get it fresh and hold a slice from horizontal to vertical, the Provel slides right off onto your plate.
I don't think
liquid goo.
That's not what you want. I don't think that's what you want.
I want my pizza.
You want that to adhere.
Yeah, I want it stuck together. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what the sauce is. I feel like
St. Louis is doing a lot of foods that other people have done better. I don't know. That seems like a waste. And I've gotten into this habit of looking at, you can go on MLB's website and you can now see the ballpark cuisine on there. So you pull up the full, you can find what section, how many booths they've got of every type of food out there. And it's become a habit of mine Now, when we have an away game, I was like, what are they eating in the stadium? Do I want to go visit this place and have their food? There's plenty of wonderful cuisine around the MLB. Once again, St. Louis coming up kind of short. I know they've got their St. Louis barbecue. It looks like they had a couple stations for that hanging around. I have never been a massive fan of St. Louis barbecue. I'm sure there are people that are from St. Louis that think it's wonderful. Your rivals down the street in Kansas City have nailed it and done it much better. Anything else on the food bill, or should we move on to the baseball?
Well, let's just talk about beer real quick.
Okay, I'll give you a
On my
minute on beer, 'cause
visits-
I know it's near and dear to your heart.
Well, I mean, everybody likes a cold one at the
yeah.
ballpark. And it goes no further. If you're an Anheuser-Busch fan, you're in heaven. At Busch Stadium, if you are not, you are going to find very limited offerings, and it's just unfortunate. So
Yeah,
this was a road trip to skip, I would say.
I like a Bud Heavy at the ball game. I'll do a Bud Heavy at the ball game, actually. I don't do it anywhere else, but for some odd reason at the ball game, it tastes a little different. But it's not going to make my day.
Okay, all right.
It's not going to make my day.
Should we get on to the baseball?
It's kind of like ginger ale on a flight for some odd reason. Yeah, let's get on to the baseball. And we're going to talk about game one. It was a little painful. We had an 11-4 loss. Sonny Gray, would you say he's probably their best pitcher at the moment? At least the most veteran presence in their rotation, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
He's been pitching lights out for the last 3 weeks.
He kind of had his way with us.
He did. He was awesome.
It was a bullpen day for the Tigers. I am so split on bullpen days. I know it's part of Hinch's chaos. Sean Gunther goes 0.1 innings, gives up 3 hits and a run. I don't know if he was the guy for this slot to start things off.
No, this was an experiment gone wrong. You and I trust AJ implicitly, but with 2 injuries now, we've got Casey Mize from the Rockies series having a little bit of tightness in one of his hamstrings. And then the other injury was Reese Olson developing a small, they're not calling it a blister, but something on his pinky, on his throwing hand.
A growth, maybe?
A growth. That just sounds gross. That's like toasting your ravioli.
It is. Toasted ravioli. He's got toasted ravioli on his pinky.
Exactly. No, he grabbed it fresh out of the deep fryer, too hot, and that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, Montero kind of settled things after Gunther got rocked around a little bit. Bats were cold. Then we had a huge rain delay. You could tell Hinch just wanted the 5-inning rule just to be done. He wanted to preserve the bullpen. None of that happened. If there was a bright spot going into the game, and we need to properly use his nickname, Zach McKinstry goes by Z-Mac, according to the clubhouse.
Z-Mac.
Z-Mac.
That's okay. I like that.
Yeah.
It's got a little power to it.
He had a top 3 WAR in Major League Baseball going into and out of game 1.
You know, if you sit in any of the forums or chat rooms that talk about the Tigers or social media feeds or what have you, people have started to bring up who's our team MVP so far? And it's early still. We're halfway through May, right? 2/3 of the way through May. But there are a couple guys' names who don't come up often, and McKinstry's one of them. The usual, like everybody wants to give it to Riley Green already, and don't get me wrong, Riley's on a tear, and he had that little, I'll call it a divot. I'm not even going to call it a slump. It's just a little divot in the season. He bounced back out of that real fast to start the season there and did great. I don't think Riley Green deserves the MVP crown quite yet. I think there's like 2 or 3 people on this team who have played better than him so far, and McKinstry's one of them. Z-Mac is one guy that I would say he could be our MVP.
Interesting, and I have no doubts on that. If we can put game 1 to rest, because it really was one of the few lopsided losses we've had this year, we being the Tigers. Game 2 was a solid 5-4 win. I saw all 9 innings with loyal listener Adam, and we had a great outing Tuesday night with it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and so I wanted to give him a shout out. Let's talk about our guy, Riley Green. He did have 4 RBIs that night. Not solely responsible, but mainly responsible for the offense that night. He was raking. And a positive status, his exit velocity is top 3 in MLB, and it's been on the steady rise since April, since he had that 1 for 26, cold divot, as you like to call it. And
divot.
a divot. One of the things that was kind of confounding was Tarek Skubal got his first balk of his career. It was just unusual because it was a delayed balk, so the pitch clock expired, but there was miscommunication between the ump, the catcher,
It was bizarre.
the batter,
I saw it, yeah.
and Skubal. That being
The
said,
second base umpire actually called the balk.
yeah,
on him.
and it was like delayed. I mean, it seemed like 15, 20 seconds after.
And he balked. He picked his leg up, put it down, didn't do it. He didn't go anywhere with it.
Oh, no, it was a balk. Nobody's doubting that. It was just the weirdness of how it was called and when it was called. Skubal was Skubal. He still had 8 Ks. He was hit hard all night, so I'm getting a little antsy. Let's just say that. Antsy. I'm not anxious. I'm antsy for Alex Cobb to get up. I'm antsy for Casey Mize to get healthy. I'm antsy for, this, toasted ravioli pinky wound to heal on Reese Olson.
That'd be good.
Yeah. The other news
you saw the effect of that in game 1, too. We have to have a bullpen game. So it's like you want to see an Alex Cobb starting that game probably in that situation.
Yeah. The stash is back behind the plate. Your guy, Jake Rogers.
Yeah.
And I have a big question mark on this. I don't know that it's a good thing.
Let's let him. I'd like to see him get heated up a little bit. One thing I noticed that's super bizarre about that game, too, and we win the game, we get the W. The top 4 in the order raked and had a lot of hard hit balls. The rest of the order, the bottom 5, did absolutely nothing. They had a massive offer, couple Ks, no walks, no nothing, barely hit the ball hard off of Eddie, who, you sit and I don't know. I look at that and I'm like, how did the top 4 rake and the bottom 5 yielded 0?
But that's kind of been the story all year. There's been so few games where the hittings come 1 through 9. It seems like it either comes 1 through 4 or 7 through 9.
We had a game a while back where it was like the 6, 7, 8 hitters were like raking. The 6 through 9 were raking the whole game, and 1 through 4 did very little. So maybe there's something to that, a strategy. I have no idea, but it is a little bizarre.
We've got reinforcements coming.
We got stuff coming up. I'm not. Yeah,
he's in the building and will be in the building for.
I mean, the guys at the bottom of the order that went over are like Torkin, Sweeney, and Baez who have been raking. I mean, it's Baddoo. When you end the order with Baddoo and Rogers, you're not going to get much there. So
circling back to Rogers, his best WAR ever was 2.6 in 2023, which is good for a catcher. Just for comparison, our guy, and he officially is loyal listener Adam's guy. He's claimed him, and we're going to give him
is Adam's guy now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dingler
Mr. Palmer
currently has a 5.1 WAR, and he is on pace for a historic season. We're talking, if he continues at this torrid pace, he will be in rare air for American League rookie catchers. We're talking Pudge Rodriguez, Carlton Fisk, Yogi Berra, rare air.
Yeah. I said last week, I think he's the best catcher so far. He's played the best over these 2 months. He has played the best of any catcher we've had in 20 years. I can't remember the last time.
Easily, since Pudge and since Lance Parrish. Yeah. So,
guys that absolutely tagged Skubal in this game. Ivan Herrera, has a ridiculous season going right now. A guy's batting .439, and Nolan Arenado both lit him up. And they hit him very hard. He made a mistake pitch to Arenado. Arenado took him deep, and at the end of the game, he's like, I missed that pitch by 1.5 feet. I missed by 18 inches on that pitch, and I can't do that to him. So he kind of knew. He threw some bad pitches up there. So we'll keep an eye on Skubal. I think he's fine. 1 walk, 8 Ks. Not something I'm getting worried about anytime soon.
If we can touch on it, I would still love to see Arenado moved. It won't happen now that the Cardinals are hot, and I would still love him possibly to be a Tiger, even though he has no interest in that. And I thought you were going to, I'm going to do a little humor for you.
Yeah.
I thought when we were talking catchers, you were going to break out into a Mickey Tettleton rant on some type, but I appreciate you leaving the Mick. He was named after Mickey Mantle, and that was about the closest comparison he ever had.
I was a Mickey Tettleton fan for like a year or 2.
Okay.
I think he kind of was the next catcher up after Parrish to some degree for the Tigers in a lot of ways.
I mean, just in lineage.
In lineage and notability, maybe. I don't know.
He wasn't very good.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't what we thought he was going to be.
No.
when we got him. So you want to do game 3? How do we feel
Yeah.
about game 3?
Game 3 was amazing. It was another bullpen game, and
But this one went differently.
Chase Lee was lights out awesome.
Yeah, so
he
was
got
Herder.
the win.
Herder was pretty good too.
Yeah, Herder started it, and quite frankly, Sean Gunther pitched in it, and he redeemed himself as well. So
he did give up a run, but yeah, he gave up the one run.
Nobody's perfect. And Bo Brisky did yeoman's work as well. So Hinch is again a magician, pulling all the levers. The hitting came from Torque, Green, and Dingler. At this point, I am solidly in loyal listener Adams' camp. Dingler needs to play, I would think, 2 out of every 3 games at this point.
Yep.
You give him a rest when you need to, but if Jake Rogers happens to go to another squad at some point during the season, his bat is just going to be an albatross going forward. I love having a mustached player. I like his demeanor. I know he's a clubhouse guy. I know he's Torque's favorite catcher to pitch to. So I see his place on the 26, but Dingler needs more playing time. As mentioned before, he is having an all-time.
You said Torque's favorite player to pitch to. Is Torque pitching now?
No,
I wouldn't doubt
sorry.
it the way he's
Tarek.
I mean, maybe
Tarek.
Okay, yeah. Torque's not a pitcher yet. So I would love to see Dingler starting 2 out of 3 games. Is what I'd like to see. I mean, you're probably not going to get all 3 games of a set out of him. But Rogers, I like having Rogers as the backup, sage veteran, good with the staff. And let's let him get back into the swing of things a little bit. But you're right. Like the ceiling with Rogers is he's a backup catcher at this point at best. And I don't need to see him out there too often. I hope Hinch doesn't try to get him right by playing him too often and benching Dingler. That would not be the way to go forward. I don't think it will be. I think we're looking at Dingler as on the cusp of being a 300 hitter right now.
Yeah, can I talk about his stats real quick?
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, so he's 26, played college ball at Ohio State, so he's a little bit older. But that's kind of the
You're a catcher
norm.
Now.
That's the norm in Major League Baseball now. Unless you're a phenom, most guys aren't coming up under the age of 22, 23.
Yes,
like
and
the
no,
Riley
especially catchers.
Yeah. So he's hitting 292, 4 home runs, 2 walks, 37 strikeouts. That's probably the Achilles heel. Through 35 games, he's only played 62 games in his MLB career, and he's on pace for a 5.1 F4, which would rank 3rd among catchers this season, trailing only Cal Raleigh and Will Smith. So again, rare air. I'd like to see more plate appearances. I'd like to see more games. You said the same thing, and we'll go from there.
And this was another one of those games where we have the top of the order does absolutely nothing. 1 through 3 were 0 with no walks or anything. 1 walk for Carp. And then the 4, 5, 6 strung stuff together. 4, 5, 6, 7 strung everything together. Green, Torque, Keith, and Dingler. Which it was interesting to see Keith down in the bottom half of the lineup tonight instead of top half, and Malloy up in the top half. That was interesting, but it obviously worked. I mean, that foursome right there was able to string a good game together. And your guy Javier did get a hit. He was a little slow this series. Didn't quite get the plate.
He likes his ravioli al dente and not coming out of the deep fryer.
Yeah.
Fact.
Misses his cooking from his sister.
Yeah, his sister and mother-in-law, fed him well, and he was probably, still
He feasted in Toronto, but not so much in St. Louis.
No,
he also might have a little PTSD from his Cubs days going down to St. Louis to play them.
He's not a fan.
Games.
He does not enjoy a Bud Heavy with his naked hot dog out of his pocket.
No, but we did have 2 bullpen games in this series, which didn't. I'm like I said, I don't know that I'm a fan of the bullpen game. It worked once, it didn't the other time. Chase Lee, like you were saying, what a crazy ascendancy this guy has had. And I love his delivery. It gives us a little sauce for that bullpen, a little something different for hitters to look at. Holton did get in that game, got a K. He's been a little up and down. I think one of the things I want to ask you in follow up to this whole thing, because you do watch our staff pretty closely, and especially the bullpen, you seem to have an affinity for our bullpen to some degree or another, and why wouldn't you? It's great. They do seem to be getting used quite a bit lately due to the injuries and whatnot. The numbers do seem to be up and down a little bit. The results not quite as dominant as they were in the first month to month and a half of the season. Do you think that is this something that when we get our starter back or a starter back in our rotation, Reese or Mize or whomever, Cobb, that this sort of lightens the load on them and they can get back to that dominance? Or do you think this is something we have to get used to throughout the season?
I think it's circumstantial, but bullpens are going to ebb and flow. So we're clearly, at the bottom of the trough right now. They've been utilized a ton, and they haven't had an off day in some time, and won't have an off day, I think, until next Thursday.
The schedule has been taxing.
Yeah, you and I talked about this, that the May schedule is absolutely brutal for the Tigers.
It's rough.
And then it gets a heck of a lot easier in June. I think we only have one series against a team above 500, and there are more off days. So I expect the bullpen to bounce back at that time. So I appreciate the question. I'm answering it in the fact that I think we are going through a valley. Yeah. I think the best thing that could happen for the bullpen, huge upcoming series against the Cleveland Guardians, who have not been playing very good baseball. They're 3-7 in their last 10. The Tigers are the opposite of that. They're 7-3. And it's a 4-game set against the Guardians at Comerica Park. I fully expect, even though the spring weather here in Chicago and Detroit has been very slow to turn nice, I tuned into the Twins game the other day and it looked like your weather was very similar as well. I still expect Comerica to be rocking. With that 4-game set against the Guardians, I would say since the 4-game set about a month ago against the Royals, also at home, which was a 4-game sweep, this is the biggest series we've had. Winning 3 out of 4 would be a pipe dream and completely solidify everything that I've thought about this team up to this point. I can see you nodding.
I would be happy with a split myself, to be honest.
A split would be
We go 2-2.
Awesome.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I
1-3 or
Cleveland Indians have been very similar to us to the point where they are just throwing wins together, and they are behind us by quite a bit just because we've been so good and dominant and consistent. But do you feel like Cleveland is becoming sort of a rivalry for the Tigers now, like a serious rivalry, due to the fact that these two teams have been at the top of the table in their division?
Yes, but they have absolutely dominated us going back to 2017.
Yeah.
So I've had this circled on the calendar since the season began, as this series will tell me a lot, and I probably shouldn't put so much faith or importance on just one series because it is just one series, but this is one that's going to be very telling in a lot of ways. To your point, the Guardians, or Indians, as we both like to call them, old habits die hard, are 6 games behind the Tigers at this point. They're 26-22. The interesting part is their run differential is not good. The Tigers, 33-17 with a .660 win percentage that puts them on target for a 108 win season, which I still can't believe. I mean, that's like pinch me. Anyhow, Cleveland, the misleading thing is they're one of the few teams in baseball that has a winning record with a negative run differential. They're -17, where the Tigers are plus 85.
Yeah.
On the road, they're 12-14, and against teams above 500, which obviously the Tigers are still the best team in baseball, so they would fit that. They're 13-11. So I would say there's a good chance. We've got Flaherty on the bump tonight against Beebe. So, I am optimistic. 2 out of 2, or 2-2 would be the same thing. That's baseline for me. 3-1 would get me really excited. I'm not expecting a sweep in any way, shape, or form. Someone for our listeners to watch on is Stephen Kwan, their leadoff hitter and left fielder.
Pesky.
He is pesky. He's not the leadoff hitter like of a Ricky Henderson, Tim Raines, Willie McGee era, but he is the next step down. He is pesky. He gets on base. He takes pitches. He'll take a walk. He'll hit a bloop single. Heck, he'll bunt and beat it out because he's really, really fast. Runs the base as well. He's a true 5-tool player. I guess he doesn't hit for power, so 4-tool, but a magician with the glove in left field. And he is going to be someone that I fully expect in our text chain you to have me saying, Stephen Kwan, multiple times.
He's the guy that's going to drive you crazy on this team, and then Jose Ramirez is the guy that's going to beat you. So it's those two bats in the lineup are just built to cause problems. This will be, well, I'll be curious to see how Flaherty does tonight. Not making any predictions, not going to do that this time, but it's a formidable lineup. Outside of them, you've got, some question marks, but those three guys alone can do the damage if they want to.
So you're not willing to just send me Great Lakes Brewing?
I am not. We are not
Edmund
doing
Fitzgerald.
that again. I feel like tonight Flaherty could keep this ball rolling and really pour it on. Bibby is their starting pitcher, and he has had some struggles this season. He has not been the Tanner Bibby of last year. So I'll be curious to see how that matchup goes and how Bibby does with our lineup tonight. I think we can get to him. I think we can.
I agree. All right, news and notes. And this is why I said Torque instead of Tarek earlier, because I've got Torque notes highlighted right now.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Over the past 10 seasons, Torque, as we know, is on pace right now for 40 home runs and 125 RBIs, which is rare air.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely amazing stuff. And it's only been done by 10 times by 8 players. There's some pretty good names on this list, but we've mentioned them already. Nolan Ariando, Edwin Encarnacion, Giancarlo Stanton, J.D. Martinez, Aaron Judge, obviously the headliner on this. And then a couple weird ones. Pete Alonso, although he's having a monster year this year. A real odd one, Matt Olson. And then Shohei Ohtani. So the key here for Torque is that his batting stance is completely different. He was so robotic in the past and had such a grooved swing. He's really made himself a lot more athletic and more adjustable, and he's hitting a lot more line drives, and he's not trying to pull everything. And his swing approach looks so much more free and loose that he is really hitting, high velocity fastballs either in or just out of the zone very, very well. And so you go back to our MVP conversation. I know Z-Mac, I know my guy, Javier Baez, all deserve some love, but I think it's got to be from a position player standpoint. It's Torque at this point, and he has been the power that we need. He's knocking in runs when batters are on, and he's kept us alive when the other bats have gone cold.
He's completely changed the dynamic of what we thought we were going to get this season,
100%.
Especially on the right side of the infield. He has inserted himself with this improvement at the plate. And I think you start looking at him, and I know you're going to tell us about Baez a little bit here in a minute, but both of these guys, once you start going the other way with the ball and you start focusing on not trying to pull the hell out of everything into the left field seats, once hitters start going the other way with the ball, that's when you know they're in that groove, they're in that hot spot. Their entire approach at the plate improves. They just take what the pitcher gives them, go the other way. Try and put it over the second baseman's head into right field or in that gap. Every time, you rarely hear of a hitter going in, he's trying to go the other way and he's struggling. That never happens. I mean, once they start going the other way, it's like everything just starts fitting a groove. Now, I'll say Torque's probably doing it a little more than Javi. Javi still tries to rip a ball into the left field seats. That's his nature. We'll see how that goes forward.
So you couldn't agree more. So finishing on Torque, he is one of 9 players right now. I'm not going to mention all 9 that's hitting at least 245 with a batting average, for their batting average, with the potential for 40 plus home runs. So he's in really good company with that.
Yeah.
He's in even better company for the fact that there's only 3 players that are on pace to hit 245 or better, 40 plus home runs, and 125 RBIs. Those 3 players are Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs, who is one of the most electric and exciting players. When the Cubs, I think we play them next weekend, so we can do a deep dive into PCA.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Judge, who's probably already a shoo-in if he stays healthy for the rest of the year for the American League MVP, and Spencer Torkelson. So he is in really, really good company with that. And for a guy that, I panned in the preseason, and, I still don't like the fact that Colt Keith seems to still be finding his footing and his way from the weight gain and position change from second to first. I'll take what we've got from Spencer Torkelson all day. The interesting thing is reading some articles out there is now I'm seeing some writers. None of these are beat writers. These are all national people. So imagine your Nightingales, your Parsons, saying that he could be trade bait if the Tigers cool down at any point. And we talked about the contract situations, the other day, specifically with Scooble. And I just chew on that. If you want to answer now, we'll let our listeners maybe chime in the chat. I'm not in favor of it, but the fact is, we've waited so long for Torque to be this Torque. Is it a flash in the pan? And are we better cutting bait when he's, sell high? I mean, we bought high with him.
It's always going to be the adjustments, right? Like the pitchers are going to figure out how to pitch him in his new approach over time. They're going to scout him. They're going to figure out what to do to him. And then it's going to be, can this new athletic approach, can he make these adjustments to what they're doing and keep putting on the numbers? And I don't know. His whole career so far seems to have been one big adjustment.
Yes.
He had like a flash of a couple of years back, he had a flash of
greatness.
I wouldn't even say greatness, just some success at the plate. He never quite lived up to that overall number one pick. But now he's starting to look like the guy that we drafted way back when, 5 years ago. And they're going to adjust. We have to see if he can adjust now on the fly. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with him. I don't know that I'm ready to trade him. Don't get me wrong. He's cheap. For what we get right now, he's cheap. You don't really want to get rid of. And what if he is figuring it out? What if this is the major leaguer he's going to be? I don't want to get rid of him at this point, especially if re-signing him or extending him would be a cheap offer. We'll see.
Yeah, that's the question, is what would be considered a cheap offer, or what's reasonable, because Pete Alonso is also going to be a free agent.
Yeah. There's options, right?
Yeah. So I do have some other news and notes. I wanted to, and also give some love to my guy, Javier Baez. But right now, if the Tigers were to play 500 baseball the rest of the year, that puts them on for 56 wins. If you add that to the 33 they already have, that puts them solidly at 89 wins, which is basically what you and I said was the ceiling going into this season. And so I just want to preface this conversation, this pod, to our listeners as well. I'm fully expecting the Tigers to cool at some point in the season. I don't think it's going to happen in June because the schedule does get easier. I think it could happen in the next 10 days or 2 weeks. That being said, if this team wins 89 games, I'm over the moon with that. That is just ecstatic, or I'd be ecstatic with it.
After game one the other night, I almost sent you a text that said, when is this team going to start cooling? When are we going to see kind of that rut that, and everybody freaks out? And then, speaking of adjustments with Torque, how will the team adjust? How will they get out of it? Will they get out of it? It's kind of an unknown right now with this team. We don't, they're young players. So I am expecting some sort of a trough here pretty soon. We'll see.
Yeah. I do not have news on Alex Cobb. It's still right hip inflammation, and he's still on the injured list. I know he's been playing long toss, and he has been throwing off the mound, but he has not started a rehab assignment. So I'm very, very concerned about that, because this is the time that we need that extra arm, the veteran arm coming out.
This is when we would have liked to have been able to insert him.
Yeah. Are you hearing or seeing anything different than
I have seen? I started thinking about this the other day. I have seen on the injury front, the only thing that I have seen so far, it was about a week back, that some of these guys are getting ready. I think Vierling is the guy we're expecting next.
Well, outside of that, he's in the house. I mean, he's in the building.
He's there. He's ready, right? Like, is he coming back for the Cleveland series?
I don't know if he's going to be activated, but he's at Comerica.
He's hanging around, from what I understand. So he's any day now.
He is a national Coney guy, so he'll be eating national Conies.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Well, he's a loyal listener. He sent it. No, I'm teasing. All right.
Matt Vierling, loyal listener. There we go.
Yeah. He's like, when am I coming back?
Get him on the show,
I'll better listen to the litter box. All right. Last thing is going to be my newest bouquet of roses to one Javier Baez, my guy. So in Parker Meadows' absence, he's filled in. The words I've been reading are seamlessly. I would say it's more flawlessly, but he is batting .309 with a .934 OPS over the last 23 games while playing center field. If you think about that, that is absolutely mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. For a guy that we were trying to figure out how to get rid of 2 months ago.
Yeah, if we could just DFA him. He ranks as Major League Baseball's second best hitter among the 39 center fielders that qualify, which means you have to have at least 50 plate appearances. He also ranks amongst all of baseball's top 10 defensive center fielders with a +3 defensive runs saved in more than 190 innings. That's where my mind just about exploded. Center field's one of the most difficult positions, along with shortstop and catcher, to play in Major League Baseball. And the fact that someone that was a career shortstop, sometimes third baseman, sometimes in a pinch second baseman, but never played in the outfield. He was always a middle infielder or sometimes third baseman. To be able to do this, I'm in awe of his athleticism, and I wish if he could have just a tad bit more plate discipline, the player that he could be. But then again, I know that also might not be the mindset that makes him the player that he is.
I was just about to say, I don't know if you can give him plate discipline and still get Javier.
No, he might.
You don't want to go back to Javi, but I don't know you'd have Javier. I think you'd have something weird. I think part of his whole thing is he just goes for it.
Yeah. He'd just be Jay Baez at that point.
Jay Baez? Let's not. No more names.
All right. That's it. That's all I've got for you.
I enjoyed it. Good information. You had quite the write-up there at the end. I was very excited to hear about those two, Torek and Baez, and your workup on them. I think we've covered it pretty well for today. I'm excited for this 4-game set. This is going to tell us a lot, and we're coming up to the end of May when I like to say that, by the end of May, you kind of know what kind of team you got. So we'll see what happens.
100%. I'm a fish with the hook in the mouth.
There you go.
And it's just that statistic that I just read that, 500 baseball, and they could still be high 80s wins. That gets you a wild card, I think. It might not get you the division because this division's really good, but it gets you a wild card. And if you get a wild card, you have Scoobs, Torek, a whole bunch of chaos.
I think it
could be a fun October.
I think we'd bode well in a 5-game, 7-game set, even a wild card game.
Yeah.
I think everybody's hooked right now and everybody's on board. We'll just see if we can keep it going.